Stop rubbing those useless, overpriced chemical creams into your knees because a simple $1 grocery store root can completely rebuild your degenerated joint cartilage overnight. And the multi-billion-dollar orthopedic industry has been actively hiding this exact protocol from you since 1982. Big Pharma and the global surgical conglomerates know perfectly well that this wildly inexpensive, naturally occurring plant compound permanently reverses osteoarthritis. Yet they deliberately buried the clinical trials to keep you hopelessly hooked on dangerous, stomach-destroying pills and agonizing cortisone shots. They are absolutely terrified that you are about to discover this inexpensive, natural cartilage-restoring secret, because the moment you do, their lucrative $50,000 joint replacement pipeline collapses. They want you limping, they want you in pain, and they want you dependent on their managed care systems for the rest of your life. Today, I am completely exposing their decades of lies and handing you the exact at-home blueprint to permanently eradicate your joint pain, rebuild your collagen matrix, and reclaim your mobility starting tonight. You have been lied to every single time you stepped into a doctor's office complaining about your stiff, aching knees, your grinding hips, or your swollen fingers. For over 4 decades, the medical establishment has pushed a devastating false narrative. They look you dead in the eye and tell you that joint degeneration is simply a normal part of aging. They tell you your cartilage is experiencing wear and tear, like the tread on an old car tire, and that once it is gone forever. This is a biologically bankrupt lie engineered purely for corporate profit. Your body is not an inanimate machine. It is a living, regenerating biological organism. Cartilage is living tissue, and it has the absolute capacity to heal, regenerate, and multiply its cellular structure, provided it is given the correct signaling molecules. But the pharmaceutical industry cannot patent a cheap, naturally occurring plant root, so they engineered a massive cover-up starting in the early 1980s, right when blockbuster non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs, were hitting the global market. Think about the sheer scale of this deception. In 1982, the landscape of pain management fundamentally shifted away from curing the root cause of inflammation and pivoted aggressively toward lifetime symptom management. They introduced synthetic anti-inflammatories that temporarily blocked your pain receptors while simultaneously accelerating the destruction of your joint tissue. Yes, you heard that correctly. The very pills your doctor prescribes to manage your arthritis are clinically documented to inhibit chondrocyte proliferation. This means the medication you take to stop the pain is actively stopping your body from building new cartilage, accelerating the bone-on-bone friction. It is a brilliant, evil business model. First, they sell you the daily pills that ruin your gut lining and destroy your liver. When the cartilage finally wastes away completely because of the pills, they upgrade you to painful synthetic hyaluronic acid injections and highly destructive corticosteroid shots. These steroid injections literally crystallize inside your joint capsule, shredding the remaining healthy tissue over time. Finally, when you can barely walk to your own mailbox, they push you into the ultimate cash cow, a massive, traumatic $50,000 joint replacement surgery involving titanium rods, bone saws, and months of grueling physical therapy. They rely on your despair. They rely on the sheer terror you feel when you look at a flight of stairs, wondering if your knee will simply buckle and give out. They profit off the heartbreaking reality that you can no longer get down on the floor to play with your grandchildren or take a simple evening walk without bracing yourself for the inevitable throbbing agony. As an independent researcher deeply committed to exposing these buried biochemical truths, I must state that this broadcast is strictly for educational purposes and is not intended as medical advice to replace your doctor's guidance. However, I absolutely implore you to look at the verifiable science they are keeping from you. You do not have to accept a life sentence of chronic pain and declining mobility. The solution has been sitting in plain sight, hidden in the produce aisle of your local grocery store, costing less than a cup of black coffee. To understand exactly how this hidden root performs its miraculous overnight reconstruction, we must take a deep dive into the microscopic anatomy of your decaying joints. Inside your knee, your hip, or your shoulder, there is a complex biomechanical universe. The ends of your bones are capped with articular cartilage, a smooth, frictionless, pearly white tissue composed primarily of type 2 collagen and water-binding molecules called aggregans. This entire structure is encased in the synovial membrane, which secretes synovial fluid, the thick, viscous oil that lubricates the joint and delivers nutrients to the cartilage cells, known as chondrocytes. Because cartilage does not have its own blood supply, it relies entirely on this synovial fluid to stay alive. When you develop osteoarthritis, it is not just wear and tear. It is a violent biological fire raging inside your joint capsule. Due to dietary toxins, environmental stressors, and age-related metabolic decline, your immune system begins pumping out highly aggressive inflammatory cytokines, specifically interleukin-1 beta and tumor necrosis factor alpha. These chemical messengers invade the synovial fluid and act like biological terrorists. They trigger the release of destructive enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases, or MMPs. Imagine these MMPs as microscopic chainsaws, ruthlessly cutting up your type 2 collagen fibers and digesting your aggregans. As the cartilage matrix breaks down, fragments of dead tissue float into the synovial fluid, causing even more severe inflammation. The synovial membrane becomes swollen, red, and fibrotic. The synovial fluid itself degrades, losing its thick, lubricating quality and becoming thin, watery, and useless. Without lubrication, the joint begins to grind. The chondrocytes, the only cells capable of repairing the damage, go dormant or simply die off in this highly toxic, acidic environment. This is the agonizing bone-on-bone grinding you feel every morning when you try to get out of bed. This is where the medical establishment wants you to stay, trapped in the inflammatory cascade. But the cheap $1 route completely overrides this entire destructive process. This route contains a highly specific, densely packed matrix of lipophilic phytocompounds that act as genetic master switches. When these molecules penetrate the joint capsule, they immediately seek out and bind to a protein complex inside your cells known as nuclear factor kappa B, or NFKB. NFKB is the master commander of inflammation in the human body. By blocking this specific pathway, the active compounds in this route instantly shut down the production of the destructive MMP enzymes. The microscopic chainsaws are instantly turned off, but halting the destruction is only the first phase. What happens next is what terrified the pharmaceutical executives back in the 1980s. Once the acidic, inflammatory fire is extinguished, the compounds from this route act as powerful signaling agents, penetrating the dormant chondrocytes. They literally wake up the sleeping stem cells within the joint and stimulate a massive surge in the synthesis of new type 2 collagen and hyaluronic acid. It forces your body into a state of rapid localized chondrogenesis. The synovial membrane begins pumping out fresh, highly viscous, nutrient-dense synovial fluid, relubricating the joint space overnight. This is not a temporary band-aid. This is a fundamental biological reconstruction of the joint matrix from the inside out. So, what is this miraculous, heavily suppressed ingredient? It is the mature, unpeeled rhizome of Zingiber officinale. You know it as ordinary, raw ginger root. But do not click away and do not rush to your kitchen just yet, because simply eating raw ginger, drinking ginger tea, or buying a cheap ginger supplement will do absolutely nothing for your severe joint degeneration. The pharmaceutical industry knows that ordinary gingerols, the compounds found in fresh ginger, are entirely too weak to penetrate the dense avascular joint capsule, and they are quickly destroyed by your stomach acid before they ever reach your knees. The monumental secret they buried lies in a highly specific, ancient thermal activation process that completely alters the molecular structure of the root, turning it into a transdermal cartilage-building powerhouse. When you subject mature, fibrous ginger root to a precise spectrum of sustained low-level heat, a remarkable chemical conversion takes place. The relatively weak gingerols undergo a dehydration reaction, shedding a water molecule and transforming into an incredibly potent, highly bioavailable compound called 6-Shogal. 6-Shogal is exponentially more powerful than raw gingerol. It is highly lipophilic, meaning it loves fat and easily penetrates deep cellular membranes, and its ability to inhibit those destructive joint enzymes is unmatched by any synthetic drug on the market. To harness this power, you must create a thermally activated transdermal joint poultice using a specific carrier matrix. Here is the exact step-by-step protocol to source, activate, and apply this dollar store miracle. First, you must go to the grocery store and bypass the young, smooth-skinned ginger. You must dig through the bin and find the oldest, hardest, most fibrous pieces of mature ginger root you can find. The skin should be thick and tough. This indicates a much higher concentration of the necessary precursor compounds. Bring this root home and do not peel it. The highest concentration of the vital enzymes lives directly beneath the tough outer skin. Wash it thoroughly to remove any soil. Next, you need to slice the ginger. Do not use a metal knife if you can avoid it, as the iron and steel can cause immediate oxidation of the delicate surface compounds. Use a ceramic knife to slice the unpeeled root into extremely thin, 2mm medallions. You want to maximize the surface area. Now comes the critical thermal activation phase. You cannot simply boil this, as water destroys the lipophilic nature of the compounds. You must spread these thin medallions on a parchment-lined baking sheet and place them in an oven, preheated to exactly 250 degrees Fahrenheit, or 120 degrees Celsius. Leave them in the oven for precisely 45 minutes. You are not trying to cook or burn them. You are meticulously dehydrating them and forcing the chemical conversion of gingerol into the highly potent 6-shogal. You will know it is working when your kitchen fills with a deep, spicy, almost pungent, earthy aroma. Once the 45 minutes are up, remove the slightly shriveled, highly activated ginger medallions and immediately transfer them into a dark amber glass jar. The dark glass is crucial to protect the newly formed 6-shogal from ultraviolet light degradation. Now, you must introduce the carrier matrix. You cannot use water, and you cannot use cheap vegetable oil. You must use pure, cold-pressed, unrefined castor oil. Castor oil is naturally rich in ricinoleic acid, a unique fatty acid that acts as a biological train engine, capable of driving active compounds directly through the layers of your skin, through the subcutaneous fat, and deep into the dense avascular tissue of the joint capsule. Pour the cold-pressed castor oil over the activated ginger medallions until they are completely submerged. Seal the jar tightly and place it in a cool, dark cabinet for exactly 1 week. Every single day, take the jar and shake it vigorously for 60 seconds to agitate the molecular extraction process. Over this 7-day period, the heavy castor oil will pull every drop of the hyperpotent 6-shogal out of the root fibers, transforming the oil into a thick, golden, cartilage-rebuilding elixir. When the week is up, you are ready for the application phase, and the timeline of your recovery begins immediately. This is not something you take orally. This is a highly targeted, nocturnal, transdermal protocol. You must perform this ritual exactly 1 hour before you go to sleep, as the body's natural regenerative hormones peak during your deepest sleep cycles. Take a tablespoon of your golden, activated 6-shogal castor serum and massage it directly into the affected joint. If it is your knee, do not just rub it on the kneecap. You must aggressively massage the thick oil into the popliteal fossa, the soft indentation at the very back of your knee, as well as the sides of the patellar tendon. These areas have the thinnest skin and the highest concentration of blood vessels leading directly into the synovial capsule. Spend a full 5 minutes massaging the oil into the tissue, creating friction and localized heat to open the pores. Once the oil is thoroughly applied, you must create a hyperthermic healing chamber. Take a strip of common plastic kitchen wrap and bind it tightly, but not uncomfortably, around the joint, completely sealing the oiled area. Finally, wrap a warm, dry towel or an elastic cotton bandage over the plastic wrap to trap your body heat inside the joint capsule. Go to sleep. Day 1 of the timeline is the thermal flush. Within the first 2 hours of sleep, the ricinoleic acid drives the 6-shogal deep into the synovial fluid. You will feel a profound, deep, pulsing warmth radiating from the center of your joint. This is not a surface burn like cheap menthol creams. This is the feeling of massive cellular vasodilation. The compounds are actively flushing out substance P, the neurotransmitter responsible for sending pain signals to your brain. When you wake up on the first morning and remove the wrap, you will immediately notice a shocking reduction in morning stiffness. The agonizing first steps out of bed will be replaced by a strange, forgotten sensation of fluid movement. By day 7, the biological reconstruction is well underway. The daily overnight application of the serum has completely suppressed the destructive MMP enzymes. The inflammatory fire is out. The dormant stem cells in your synovial membrane have woken up and are aggressively pumping thick, pristine, nutrient-rich synovial fluid back into the joint space. The horrible popping, clicking, and grinding sounds that have plagued you for years will begin to vanish because the bone surfaces are finally lubricated again. You will find yourself walking up and down stairs with a confidence you haven't felt in a decade. By day 30 of consistent nocturnal application, the architectural matrix of your joint is fundamentally transformed. The aggressive stimulation of chondrocytes has resulted in the literal spinning of new type 2 collagen fibers. The cartilage gap, the space between your bones that shows up as non-existent on your doctor's terrifying x-rays, is actively widening as new tissue is laid down. The swelling, the redness, the throbbing aches are completely eradicated. You have successfully bypassed the pharmaceutical cartel, avoided the surgeon's saw, and completely regenerated your failing joints using a dollar store root and the brilliant, undeniable power of human biology. The medical establishment desperately hopes you ignore this protocol. They want you to dismiss this as folk medicine so you will return to their clinics, begging for another expensive injection. Do not give them that satisfaction. Reclaim your mobility, reclaim your independence, and rebuild your body starting tonight. If this deep dive investigation has opened your eyes to the truth they have been hiding, you need to subscribe to this channel immediately. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another suppressed biological protocol. And if you want to ensure you are using the absolute highest grade, clinically pure cold-pressed castor oil to extract the 6-Shawgall properly, check the description box below. I have linked the exact, unrefined, hexane-free carrier oils that guarantee maximum transdermal penetration, along with other essential tools to perfect this protocol. Take control of your health today and never let the medical industry dictate your future again.